Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Mr. Bhagavad Paramahansa, Bhagavad-gita, Ashtottara Tadashi Srimad Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnu Pad Paramahansa, Bhagavad-gita, Ashtottara Tadashi Srimad Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Welcome back, Marcy. We were worried you weren't going to make it tonight. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 28th day of October 2019 in SanDiego, reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 7, titled Knowledge of the Absolute, text number 4, which is actually at the top of page 308. (308). Got it? Okay. Bhumarapo nalo vayu Kangmano buddhadevacha Ahankara iti yamme Binna prakritirashtada Bhumarapo nalo vayu Kangmano buddhadevacha Ahankara iti yamme Binna prakritirashtada Bhumarapo nalo vayu Kangmano buddhadevacha Ahankara iti yamme Binna Prakritirashtada. Parashakti. Bhumarapo nalo vayu Kangmano buddhirevacha Ahankara iti yamme Binna Prakritir Ashtada. Bhumarapo nalo vayu Kangmano buddhirevacha Ahankara iti yamme Binna Prakriti Ashtadha. Go ahead. Bhumarapo nalo vayu Kangmano buddhirevacha Ahankara iti yamme Binna Prakriti Ashtadha. Want to try it? No? Go ahead. Bhumirapo nalo vayu Kangmano buddhirevacha Ahankara iti yamme Prakriti and Ashtadha. Alright, I'll read through the synonym, just to read along silently. Bhumi, earth, apaha, water, analaha, fire, vayuhu, air, kam, ether, manaha, mind, buddhihi, intelligence, eva, certainly, cha, and ahankara, false ego, iti, thus, iyam, all these, may, my, binna, separated, prakriti, energies, ashtada, eightfold. Translation. Krishna says to Arjuna, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All together, these eight constitute my separated material energies. Purport. The science of God analyzes the constitutional position of God and his diverse energies. Excuse me. Material nature is called Prakriti, or the energy of the Lord in his different Purusha incarnations, expansions, as described in the Narada Pancharatra, one of the Sattvata Tantras. Vishnastu trini rupani purushakhyanyato viduhu ekam tu mahata shastriya dvitiyam tvanda sangstitam tritiyam sarvabhutastam tani gyatva vimuchyate. For material creation, Lord Krishna's plenary expansion assumes three Vishnus. The first one, Mahavishnu, creates the total material energy known as the Mahatattva. The second, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, enters into all the universes to create diversities in each of them. The third, Chirodakashaya Vishnu, is diffused as the all-pervading Supersoul in all the universes and is known as the Paramatma. He is present even within the atoms. Anyone who knows these three Vishnus can be liberated from material entanglement. Time out. Do you want a book? We can get the book. You to here? Okay, it's up to you. The material world is a temporary manifestation of one of the energies of the Lord. All the activities of the material world are directed by these three Vishnu expansions of Lord Krishna. These Purushas are called incarnations. Generally, one who does not know the science of God, Krishna, assumes that this material world is for the enjoyment of the living entities, and that the living entities are the Purushas, the causes, controllers, and enjoyers of the material energy. According to the Bhagavad Gita, this atheistic conclusion is false. In the verse under discussion, it is stated that Krishna is the original cause of the material manifestation. Srimad Bhagavatam confirms this. The ingredients of the material manifestation are separated energies of the Lord. Even the Brahmajyoti, which is the ultimate goal of the impersonalists, is a spiritual energy manifested in the spiritual sky. There are no spiritual diversities in the Brahmajyoti as there are in the Vaikuntha Lokas, and the impersonalist accepts this Brahmajyoti as the ultimate eternal goal. The Paramatma manifestation is also a temporary, all-pervasive aspect of the Chirodakashaya Vishnu. The Paramatma manifestation is not eternal in the spiritual world. Therefore, the factual absolute truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. He is the complete energetic person, and he possesses different separated and internal energies. In the material energy, the principal manifestations are 8, as above mentioned. Out of these, the first 5 manifestations, namely earth, water, fire, air, and sky, are called the 5 gigantic creations, or the gross creations, within which the 5 sense objects are included. They are the manifestations of physical sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. Material science comprises these 10 items and nothing more. But the other 3 items, namely mind, intelligence, and false ego, are neglected by the materialists. Philosophers who deal with mental activities are also not perfect in knowledge, because they do not know the ultimate source, Krishna. The false ego, I am, and it is mine, which constitute the basic principle of material existence, includes 10 sense organs for the material activities. Intelligence refers to the total material creation called the Mahatattva. Therefore, from the 8 separated energies of the Lord are manifest the 24 elements of the material world, which are the subject matter of Sankhya, atheistic philosophy. They are originally offshoots from Krishna's energies and are separated from him. But atheistic Sankhya philosophers with a poor fund of knowledge do not know Krishna as the cause of all causes. The subject matter for discussion in the Sankhya philosophy is only the manifestation of the external energy of Krishna, as it is described in the Bhagavad Gita. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So this chapter is a resolution of the, if you will, the puzzle that Arjuna was facing in the previous chapter. Krishna says at the end of this chapter, become a yogi. You should become a yogi, Arjuna. Being a yogi is better than being a jnani, better than being a karmi. And Arjuna was kind of perplexed because he didn't think he could practice the yoga that was described in the previous chapter. Namely the Ashtanga yoga, the official meditative yoga, going alone to the Himalayas and sitting for many, many years. Arjuna said, this is not for me. My mind is too powerful, too flickering. It's like trying to control the wind. Krishna encouraged him, yes, it's difficult, but with practice you can do it. Arjuna was still pessimistic, said, well, even if you fail to complete the course in this one lifetime, you'll be born into a family of yogis or a wealthy family like that. And in the end of the chapter, Krishna encourages Arjuna and all of us by saying, of all the yogis, the one who is the best who always thinks of me within his heart with great faith and worships me in transcendental love. And Arjuna was greatly relieved because he's already Krishna's dear friend and he's always thinking of Krishna. But in this chapter, Krishna is speaking to us and he's saying, how can we be yogis? Because we're not personal friends of Krishna. We're not always thinking of him with deep love. We're in our conditioned state. So he's teaching us now in this chapter how even in our ordinary life we can transform our consciousness in such a way that we see Krishna in every step. And he begins his instruction here. First of all, he says it's very rare, in text 3, the previous text, for a human being to really strive for perfection. And of those who have achieved some perfection of self-realization, hardly one knows me, Krishna says, in truth. So, but Krishna is going to explain to us how we can know him in truth and be part of that rare group. So he begins with analyzing the material world. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport about Sankhya. Sankhya means to analyze or to count. So Krishna begins here with these 8. He says these 8, Ashtada, the last word in the verse. These 8 material energies. So Prabhupada makes the point in the purport that understanding God, he makes it here and elsewhere, means understanding the Supreme Person and how he works through his energies and through his expansions. We are part of the energies of Krishna, as he will explain in the next verse. We're called the Parashakti. Parashakti, that's her name. Means the transcendental energy.
We don't belong to the earth, water, fire, air, and ether. We're categorically different in that we're conscious. We're conscious beings, so but we're still part of Krishna's energy. So he begins with something we can completely relate to, bhumi. Bhumi simply means earth or solid matter. We're surrounded by it. There's solid matter. The Greeks also understood this, because they picked up a lot from the East also. They got the earth, the liquids, got plenty of liquids close by, the air, fire, electricity, and all kinds of radiant energy. The space in which everything is located, that's considered a energy. Notice they get more and more subtle. And then, really subtle, mind. That's also an energy. And intelligence, discriminating factors, even finer than the mind. And the finest of all is the ego. In our present state, it's called the false ego, because we're identifying with something we're not, namely the body, the gross and subtle body. So these 8, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. Krishna says these constitute my binna prakriti. They're separated from me. They're not integral to me. They're in the material world. The material world is a special place. It's a corner of the whole creation where we're put. Those who want to forget Krishna, those who are rebellious against the law of the Lord, who want to try to enjoy and control our own energy. This is not our natural position. Our natural position is as servants of Krishna. Just as the parts of the body, like the hand and the foot, right? You don't even think twice. You want to pick up some water or do something with the hand, immediately it happens. It's a whole arrangement. We don't know how it happens. The mind is sending impulses down the nerves, all this stuff is going on. And the hand is doing its duty, and the hand is also in its proper condition. So Prabhupada would tell the story of how the different limbs of the body, like the hands, the legs, they rebelled. Because they said, we're working so hard, we're doing all these things, and we're getting the money and going to the store and buying the food, and then feeding it to the stomach, and the stomach enjoys everything, it just sits there. And we're going on strike. We want to enjoy directly. It's kind of foolish. So there was a play one. I'll never forget this play. It was put on right here. You remember Pani Bhushan? Yeah. So Pani Bhushan used to travel a lot. I see him in Alatra. He doesn't travel so much anymore. I think he has a problem with his hearing. But he was a very skilled actor, and he put on like a one-man show. I don't know if you saw this. It was right here where I'm sitting. And it was describing, this is another analogy probably, how the hand is trying to enjoy separately from the belly. So he had some fruit, and he had some ripe bananas, on the table. So he's under the table, and he reaches up. The hand is reaching, the independent hand, and gets the banana. And then, I don't know if he peeled the banana somehow with one hand, but then he starts squishing the banana, right? And where's the enjoyment? This, you can't taste it, So what happens is that the limbs go on strike. They want to enjoy separately, and they get weak because they're not feeding the stomach. You see? Because the natural thing is when the limbs work and they feed the stomach, then they also benefit from the energy that's given by it. So that's just like us. We are diminished in our potency as separated living entities. He says this is binna prakriti. Binna means separated. We're identifying with this separate energy, namely the material energy, and therefore we're not manifesting our actual divine qualities. We're part and parcel of Krishna, as he says in the 15th chapter, Mamai Vangsho Jiva Loka Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. These jivas, we call jiva souls, jivatma. We're angsha. Angsha simply means a little particle that has the qualities of the whole, but in minute degree. The drop of ocean water. You analyze it, it's got the same salt and all these other minerals in there, in minute degree. The sun ray has a little bit of heat and light, just like the sun, because it's part and parcel of the sun. But it depends on the sun for its energy. Similarly, we're depending on Krishna for everything. Where do you think all this food comes from? Where does the air come from? Where does the water come from? It comes from Krishna. That's part of the analo vayu apo here. So we're dependent on Krishna at every moment, but we're forgetting that. We're trying to be independent, trying to enjoy separately, and we suffer. We're cut off from Krishna. So Krishna's going to teach us here in these verses how we can begin to see him even within this material world. That's the first step. To the very things that we're already doing, the tasting, the touching, the smelling, all of these things can be spiritualized when we remember the teachings of this particular chapter. But it all begins, this is called, there's three different divisions of gyan, knowledge, that we need to understand. There is sambandha gyan, there's abhideya gyan, and prayojana gyan. What we're studying here is sambandha gyan. Sambandha means relationship, and it has to do with understanding who we are, where we fit into this material world, how it came about, who the supreme controller is, God and his energies. The matter, spirit, and the controller of both. This is a phrase that Prabhupada uses in the 13th chapter, which deals with the same subject matter in a large degree. So now we're studying matter, and we are spirit within matter, and our relationship with matter, and where it all came from Krishna. Here he says it's my energies. And there, Prabhupada, in the purport, he discusses these different Purusha avatars. So from our point of view, we can look at the earth, water, fire, air, ether, and we can understand, okay. But where does it all come from? So Prabhupada's giving us this, at the beginning of the purport here, this understanding of Krishna's expansions. Remember, there's two things, the energies, and then there's what he calls plenary expansions. Krishna can expand into fully powerful entities, like Balaram. Balaram is just as powerful as Krishna, but he takes a different role. He helps Krishna in his Leela, in the spiritual world. He's protector, brother, and but he's non-different from Krishna. And and further expansions, like you have these four called the Chaturvyuha. These are the Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. They also have a function in the spiritual world, and Sankarshan expands again into Mahavishnu for the creation. And here's this Mahatattva, which is the whole, you can imagine how big it's called, Mahatattva. It's all of the material energy in one together. You see, there's no differentiation, but the ingredients are there. Nothing's going on. It's just like in the kitchen, right? All the ingredients are there, but until the cook goes in there, nothing's going to get made. But the ingredients have to be there first. So the ingredients of the Mahatattva, and then when Vishnu enters in, he expands again. So it's called the Mahavishnu, the great Vishnu. He's lying on the causal ocean, and he's just breathing out. And as he breathes out, all of these universes manifest in small form, and then they expand. And then he expands into the next Vishnu, Garbhodakashai. This Udakashai, this Karanodakashai, Garbhodakashai, and Chirodakashai. So let's just analyze those words so it's not a mystery, because these words just come and go. So Karana means cause, and then Udaka means ocean. So there's a causal ocean that's all spiritual, and Karanodakashai Vishnu or Mahavishnu is the same. And he's lying in that ocean and emanating all of these universes. Now, when the creation is about to take place, he opens his eyes. He's in yoga nidra, this yogic sleep. He opens his eyes, and he doesn't touch the material energy, but he glances, and all of the living entities who merged into him at the last annihilation come out. And then they need to get manifested bodies, and that's where Brahma comes in and so forth. So these universes have been manifested, then he expands into Garbhodakashai, Garbha ocean. Why Garbha? Because it's like a fetus. Each of these universes is covered by layers of earth, water, fire, air, ether that we just, huge layers. So it's like an egg, sometimes called Brahma's egg, Brahmanda. So this Vishnu, he needed a place to lie, so perspiration, he filled up half the universe. So he's lying there on the Sheshanag, and what happens? From his navel, a big lotus grows, and Brahma appears. That's why he's called Ajja. He doesn't have normal birth. He doesn't have a mother. He just does it fine. So then it goes on from there. It's described in each universe how he doesn't know where he came from. What? It's all darkness and silence. So all he's got is the lotus stem. So he says, maybe it's the lotus stem. So I go down. He goes down the lotus stem. But you would think, well, he's fine Garbhodaksha Vishnu, but he doesn't. Because Garbhodaksha Vishnu is completely spiritual, and Brahma is not yet qualified to see God. So he goes back up the lotus stem and sits on the lotus and waits. And then he hears, Krishna initiates him with these 2 syllables. Tapa, 3 times. Tapa, tapa. This means austerity. Brahma is so intelligent, he's got 4 heads. He says, okay, that means that I should perform austerity. So he starts meditating. And after countless years of just sitting there, Krishna initiates him within the heart with transcendental knowledge, with the flute sound, Gayatri, the whole thing. That's mentioned in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam. Tene Brahma Vadaya Adi Kaviye. In this phrase, Brahma doesn't mean Brahma. That means the spiritual knowledge. Tene, into his heart, Hrida, the Adi Kaviye, the original sage. And Kaviye is one who's very intelligent, often poetic, So he's initiated with all this knowledge in his heart, and in further meditation. Finally, Krishna appears to him and he sings the Brahma Samhita, which is described, Vedam Konantam. He's seeing Krishna in his heart, the whole spiritual universe manifest to him. And he describes it in these beautiful prayers called Brahma Samhita. Anyway, so then it goes on. Then he has a big headache, or shall I say headaches. How to populate the universe. So and that's a big story. And it's like, now he's dealing with the material energy, and there's all these false starts. He starts with the 4 Kumaras. They don't want to have anything to do with it. They don't want to get married. So they're so powerful, they keep themselves as little children. So they won't even grow up. Amen. Then there wasn't a song like that? I won't grow up, I won't. I'm sorry. But there's super sages, they're very wise, and they appear, and they have their own sampradaya and everything. Anyway, it goes on like that. But once the creation gets going, then Vishnu again manifests as Chirodakashai Vishnu. Chir means milk, condensed milk. So there's a planet in which there's an ocean of milk, and there's Chirodakashai Vishnu lying there, and he expands into every atom and every heart as the super soul. And that Prabhupada mentions that. So that's all there in these 3 verses, 3 lines here, Vishnu's Tutrini. So this is all the science of how creation came about. It's much more fascinating just, there was a big lump and it blew up, which is really not that doesn't work. So, this is a temporary manifestation, and Prabhupada, deals with a lot of things here. But basically, and at the end he mentions the Sankhya. You talk about the atheistic Sankhya philosophy. Now they try to just analyze this material world and see how it's going on automatically, but it's not going on automatically. There's an intelligence behind everything. That's why the super soul is understanding. There's no point in the whole universe where there's not some intelligence controlling it. That's the divine vision. The atheistic vision is that asatyam apatishtam te jagadahu anishwaram aparaspadasam bhutam kimanya kamahoituga. This is their mantra. There's no ultimate truth. There's no foundation of this world. There's certainly no God in control. They declare it. It's not that there may or not be. That's agnosticism. That's honest. They declare jagadahu anishwaram. Anishwaram, there's no controller. Now, how do things come about? Just by mixing of chemicals over time, and molecules and attraction and repulsion. Kimanyat kamahoitam. How could there possibly be any other cause besides this attraction and repulsion? So this is the atheist. In 16th chapter, Krishna deals with them. But we accept that there is intelligence. There is intelligent design in every single angstrom unit of this universe. They want to think that you guys are just creationists, But it's absolutely insane to think that there isn't some intelligence behind the workings of this universe, of this world. Where is there not some emphasis, some evidence of organization and design? Even if it looks completely random, if you go down into the atoms and the molecules, you'll see tremendous organization. I remember I used to work with Sariputta Prabhu. He was our great scientist who passed away some time ago. And I remember where he explained, there really is, because when we were kids, we grew up, this is just one simple one-cell organism, right? The amoebas and the paramecium, you remember that? They're not simple. They're not simple. He said even within, they've gone into them, each one of those paramecia is more complicated than New York City. There's so many things going on in there that have to be just right to make it work. What to speak of a body like ours. There's tremendous organization, and we just blunder into it and try to exploit it, and we ruin the whole balance. The whole oceans are dying, the forest fires are coming. You know, we're ruining the atmosphere. The ice is melting. You know, we're not so intelligent. We're thinking we can control, but we're wrecking things. So that's the first verse. Now the next one describes the. Yes, please.
Now, did Kapila develop this?
Kapila Dev. Yes, he in the third canto, at the end of the third canto. Yeah, he developed it much more. He describes how these came, how the different the gross elements here called the Mahabhuta, or they interact. You know, we interact with those, and gradually the sound produces the sense of hearing and the ear, and then that interacts with the ether and gradually produces the touch and the sight, and all these things manifest one after another. And it's all based on the false ego. And the false ego interacting with the mode of ignorance produces these very elements here and the sensations. And Prabhupada mentions the 24. So you have these 8 elements, then you have your senses, what we normally call the senses. Well, we in West, the Western understanding, you have 5 senses, right? You have the eyes, the ears, the touch, the smell, the taste, and the feeling. But then you have the objects of those senses are also counted. That's another 5. Then you have the active senses, the hands and the feet, the voice, very important, excrete organs and the reproductive organs. So they have 5, that's 15 already. And then you have your 8 here, which is the gross elements, and so that's 23. And the 24th is said to be the soul sometimes, or contaminated consciousness. And there's like 24, 25 elements. But that's as far as they take it. The whole idea of this analysis, Krishna will mention this, I think, in the 5th chapter, is to come to the conclusion what is the source of all of it, and to focus on that, the Paramatma in the heart. Now that's there in Kapila Dev's teachings, but it's quite a meditation, he explained. He's not just meditating on the four-handed Vishnu form in the heart. He says the ultimate meditation is on the face of Vishnu and the smile of Vishnu, and then the ultimate meditation, the laughter of Vishnu. You're talking bhakti. It always comes to bhakti. So from beginning to end, the Bhagavad talks about bhakti, but along the way you'll find explanations of these same things in detail. Kapila Dev. He was born, yes. They appear in different ways. Devahuti. I think so. I think he took birth in that way, but yeah, I don't remember exactly. Huh? No, that's Krishna. You're talking about Kapila Dev, right? Yeah, I think Kapila Dev said to take birth from Devahuti, traditionally. But it's amazing because they take birth, but there's no talk of their child that's growing up, But anyway, yeah, the incarnations can appear any way they want. But he is a full-on incarnation of Krishna. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, expansion. All right, let's read the next one because they kind of go together. Text 5. Apare amitastvanyam prakatim vidhime param jiva bhuta mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. Besides these 8 that he just mentioned in the previous verse, Almighty Amdarjun, there is another superior energy of mind, which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. Purport. Here, it is clearly mentioned that the living entities belong to the superior nature or energy of the Supreme Lord. The inferior energy is matter, manifested in different elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Both forms of material nature, namely gross, earth, etc., and subtle, mind, etc., are products of the inferior energy. Inferior means unconscious. There's no consciousness there. The living entities who are exploiting these inferior energies for different purposes are the superior energy of the Supreme Lord. And it is due to this energy that the entire material world functions. The cosmic manifestation... Do you need a chair? You okay? The cosmic manifestation has no power to act unless it is moved by the superior energy, the living entity. Energies are always controlled by the energetic, and therefore the living entities are always controlled by the Lord. They have no independent existence. They are never equally powerful as unintelligent men think. The distinction between the living entities and the Lord is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1087:30 as follows. Now you see some of the glorious art of the Sanskrit language. Apadimatan druvasthanubato yadisarvakatas tarhi nashashati tiniyamo druvane tadata. Ajaniti yanmayam tadavamuchane yantravavet samamanojanataam yanamatam matadushtataya. O Supreme Eternal, if the embodied living entities were eternal and all-pervading like you, then they would not be under your control. But if the living entities are accepted as minute energies of your Lordship, then they are at once subject to your supreme control. Therefore, real liberation entails surrender by the living entities to your control, and that surrender will make them happy. In that constitutional position only can they be controllers. Therefore, men with limited knowledge who advocate the monistic theory that God and the living entities are equal in all respects are actually guided by a faulty and polluted opinion. Close quote. The Supreme Lord Krishna is the only controller, and all living entities are controlled by him. These living entities are his superior energy because the quality of their existence is one and the same with the Supreme, but they are never equal to the Lord in quantity of power. While exploiting the gross and subtle inferior energy, matter, the superior energy, the living entity, forgets his real spiritual mind and intelligence. This forgetfulness is due to the influence of matter upon the living entity. But when the living entity becomes free from the influence of the illusory material energy, he attains the stage called mukti, or liberation. The false ego, under the influence of material illusion, thinks, I am matter, and material acquisitions are mine. His actual position is realized when he is liberated from all material ideas, including the conception of his becoming one in all respects with God. Therefore, one may conclude that the Gita confirms the living entity to be only one of the multi-energies of Krishna, and when this energy is freed from material contamination, it becomes fully Krishna conscious or liberated. So this idea that we are controlled, no matter what condition we're in, what situation, we're controlled by one of Krishna's energies. Krishna has these two basic divisions of energy, the spiritual and the material. Now, from his point of view, they're both spiritual. Just like from the sun's point of view, there's no such thing as darkness. But from our point of view, we're very much in the material energy. When we completely forget about Krishna's control, God's control, we may formulate some concocted idea of what God is, but factually, we are meant to be engaged in the service, just like the hand. As I said, it's meant to be engaged in the service of the whole body, and then it's in its natural, peaceful condition and happy. We've forgotten that. We're trying to be independent. We can't be independent. Our very body's made of these energies. We are part of the energy. So, awakening to that reality and trying to live in that truth is what Bhakti Yoga is all about. And we find even just a little progress leaves so many problems, you know. Once you stop trying to enjoy this material energy, then you can't be depressed anymore that I'm not enjoying enough this material energy. You see what I'm saying? You're finding your pleasure in the spirit, and it's not bound by these material conditions. Just see how changeable things are. This material world it's like a big ocean. And oceans, you're never steady. You never know what kind of wave is going to come up. It's coming over the horizon, some storm or something. I must have made this little slideshow, and using the analogy from the Shastra, big cruise ship. It's a perfect analogy for life in the material world. You go out on the ocean, and you're in an ideal place. You're outside the 12-mile limit. You can do all kinds of things you can do, and And the picture was, all this opulence, so many stories, people are taking their, dinner, some of these like expensive restaurant. But you're out in the middle of the ocean, And just like the Titanic, all kinds of things can happen. I mean, there's been stories where these cruise ships sink. So many people died. So that's what this material world is like. You're floating along nicely, You know, I got it together. Things are good. You know, I got a job. This and that. You know, but at any moment, a wave can come into material energy, and you lose that, or it's in danger. And suddenly, even though you may externally seem to be in the same condition, you're all in anxiety. Oh my God, I'm about to lose my position. You know, or you go to the doctor for a checkup, and you get a diagnosis that's like, "Are you kidding? I got that now?" You know. And then everything changes. A big cloud comes over you. This is the material energy. Eventually, it catches up to you. Either old age, disease and death, which is a normal thing, or some accident, or some disaster, the fires are coming. We're sitting here on the San Andreas Fault. I remember when I first moved here 30 years ago, first thing I looked up was how close am I to the San Andreas Fault, right? I said, oh, that's a relief. It seems to be a little bit east of us here. You know. Big deal. Break off and fall in the ocean. I mean, but it's at every moment, right? But you forget about it, unless there's one of these tremblers. You remember? I don't know if you remember. There was 94. I think there was a big earthquake in L.A. and we felt it down here. Or it was one of the ones up in the high desert. Yes, I was after this one. So I'm sitting up here. Remember, we used to have the store upstairs here, up the stairs. And I was chanting, we could chant your rounds up there. And suddenly it's like, you know, I'm on a surfboard or something. I run down the stairs. I should have run to the deities, but I wasn't. And I'm looking, we had a different set of chandeliers. Remember the old chandeliers? And they're swaying, you know. And I run out on the sidewalk. The sidewalk is also swaying. I say, whoa, what's going on? I said, oh, this is an earthquake, you know. It wasn't, you know, that was the end of it. It happened, it just lasted. But still, it kind of, you know, it brings you, well, this is material energy. Anything can happen at any time. And so it's a whole illusion that we can be secure and happy on this material platform has to be faced squarely to begin your spiritual life. And that means understanding. Now, it's very encouraging, the second chapter. You know, Nijayate, Mriyate, Vakadachan, that there's no birth and no death for the living entity. That's us. We're never going to die, and we were never born. Well, that's good news, you know. Now let us live in that consciousness. The problem is when you forget that and you identify with the fragile material body, then you put yourself into a whole bunch of fear. Of course, it's all explained in Bhagavatam. Bhayam. In those two lines by the Yogendras, the great sons of King Bharat, he analyzes the situation. Fear, bhayam. The very word itself is, bhayam. Oh my God. Bhayam. Vidya abhinaveshatak syad. Syad means comes into being. Vidya abhinaveshatak means absorbing the mind in this second energy, the ones that we read in text number 4. Bhumarapa Amavayo. Forgetting Krishna. Isha petasya, turning away from the controller, the Isha, and absorbing your mind and trying to exploit and enjoy that second energy. That's the source of all fear and anxiety. And everything becomes turned around. It says, Viparyasya asmriti. You forget your real nature, you forget all about Krishna, you forget the real source of happiness. And everything becomes backwards. Instead of being the servant of God, you become the competitor of God. Forget about him, you become a little master, and then you get cut down. Just like today, we're this is actually the anniversary of Govardhan Puja. And maybe I could use that analogy, is that Indra, who's a living entity, but he's got a very responsible position. He's become the Lord of the heavens, he controls the weather and so many things, King of heaven, Because of his nature to be controlled by the mode of passion, he sometimes forgets himself. He certainly forgot that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, it was admittedly kind of baffling. Here's looks like a little boy playing with cows, and that's my Lord, So he lost it. And he forgot that he was a servant of God, and he thought that he was going to annihilate this coward community because they stopped worshiping him. They didn't give him his worship, So he sends this huge storm. He activated these Samvardhaka clouds, which are meant only for the end of the universe, when the universe is going to be destroyed. So probably there's some passage, I forget, it's in Nectar Devotion or Krishna book, where they were hesitant to go. He said, really? It was only supposed to be activated at the end of the universe. It's not that. said, don't worry, I'll be right behind you, everything will be all right. So, okay, he's the boss. So they go there, and they start inundating big pillars of water and big blocks of ice as big as basketballs coming down, and destroying the cow. And it's a great danger for the cows, and it's quickly flooded, and what's going to happen? Krishna, save us. So I wrote a little poem. It says, when Krishna stopped King Indra's sacrifice, that monarch of the heavens threw a fit. Those cowards took that foolish boy's advice. Such insolence I never shall permit. So Indra sent the clouds of devastation to pour down catastrophic hail and rain with lightning, thunder, winds without cessation. The cowards called to Krishna in their pain to show his coward friends his boundless love and crush King Indra's pride for his own good. Shri Krishna lifted Govardhan above and saved his friends while neath the hill they stood. So this is the nature of the material energy, is that we tend to become proud if we're controllers, and then we're brought low. We don't get the blessing of to be brought low personally by Krishna, but the material energy does a good job. Just like now, all of this craziness with the climate change, and it's more than just the climate change. It's poisoning all the agricultural chemicals that they're using, and this craziness, for profit, for control. But we got it together. The billionaire club. We're gonna build our bunker many a mile underground. I once heard, and then the guy was saying, yeah, but how am I going to keep the crew happy? In other words, you can't just be all alone under there. You have to have a bunch of servants and things. But how are they going to be satisfied over time? How can I trust them? In other words, it's insanity. It's truly insanity. And that's what Rashad Dev says. Nunam pramatta kurate vikarma yadindriya piteya pinoti. Certainly those who are simply after sense gratification are mad. They're mad. Because you're trying to enjoy, but you're ensuring you're suffering by just working for sense gratification. So this verse from the 87th chapter of the 10th canto, this is the prayers to the personified Vedas. It really defines the relationship between the individual minute living entity and the Supreme Lord. We're under control. We're either going to be controlled by the material energy or the spiritual energy. The whole point of Bhakti Yoga is to change that energy that we're under the control, voluntarily. It has to be voluntary. And the process has been given, chanting the holy name, performing all kinds of other services, hearing the Shastra, trying to incorporate the principles in our lives, and most of all, associating with devotees. And that's why it's so nice to have these festivals coming up. Next Saturday, you're all invited. Govardhan Puja. This whole temple will be filled up. We'll have a mountain of food that we build here that will then be distributed. And it'll be a very wonderful festival. And, no intoxicants allowed, and very just chanting Hare Krishna. And everyone has a great time, What do you need all this contaminating stuff for? So that, because it's pleasing to Krishna when we this is Giridhari's house, and especially Govardhan Puja is very nice. You see in every four corners this wonderful sculpture honoring his lifting of that hill. So this is Krishna's power, that he will protect us when we completely depend on him and we call out to him with great faith and love. Okay, we can read one more, which actually it's a little less in these 3, 4, 5, and 6, because now he explains that therefore everything. Hare Krishna, nice to see you, Eric. Etad yonidi bhutani sarvani chubadhariya aham krishnasya jagata prabhavak pralayastata. So now he's explaining the external energy. We're on page 310. The external energy, the gross energy, and then the spiritual energy, namely ourselves. And now he explains, all created beings have their source in these two natures, the spiritual and the material. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. Purport. Everything that exists is a product of matter and spirit, period. Spirit is the basic field of creation, and matter is created by spirit. Spirit is not created at a certain stage of material development. Rather, this material world is manifested only on the basis of spiritual energy. This material body is developed because spirit is present within matter. A child grows gradually to boyhood and then to manhood because that superior energy, spirit soul, is present. Similarly, the entire cosmic manifestation of the gigantic universe is developed because of the presence of the supersoul, Vishnu. Therefore, spirit and matter, which combine to manifest this gigantic universal form, are originally two energies of the Lord, and consequently the Lord is the original cause of everything. A fragmental part and parcel of the Lord, namely the living entity, may be the cause of a big skyscraper, a big factory, or even a big city, but he cannot be the cause of a big universe. The cause of the big universe is the big soul, or the super soul, and Krishna, the supreme. We're going to have darshan in a few minutes. If you'd like to wait, if the curtains will open at 8:15. Only 5 minutes. Can you wait? Otherwise, you have to take at least some prasadam. Is okay? Prasadam? Something to eat? Yeah. Don't leave without taking prasadam. Okay? All right. Because I let him leave without it, but maybe he'll be back. Who knows? The cause of the big universe is the big soul of the super soul, and Krishna, the supreme, is the cause of both the big and small souls. Therefore, he is the original cause of all causes. This is confirmed in the Katha Upanishad 2.2.13. Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam. Okay, let's just expand on that, and then we'll stop. This is a verse. I remember this is one of the first verses I ever memorized. Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam hyovadadati kaman. So nityo is singular. Nityanam is plural. Chaitana is singular. Chaitanam is plural. Of all of the eternal conscious beings, there is one who is supplying the needs of all the others. And that one is Krishna. In other words, we're not supplying, we're consuming. We're all breathing here. You know, if we don't think about it until we can't breathe. But we need breath, we need the oxygen, right? And we need food and water. And all of that is supplied to us by a superior force, and that's Krishna. So, this is in the Upanishads. That one person who's supplying everything is what we should offer our glorification to and our prayers. And it's so wonderful, it's such a relief that that person is the most beautiful, all-attractive, loving person of God. It's not some, impersonal force. It's not some angry God who's always trying to exploit you. He loves us. And that love, we can experience that if we simply do a little service and hear about him. That's how this chapter began. Krishna, in the very first verse, says, Tat Trinu. Hear from me how your mind can naturally be attracted. Maya sakta manaparta yogam yunjanmanashe. Without doubt. Now we have so many doubts. Our faith is very weak, because we're in Maya. But if we continually hear and practice some of the simple principles of devotional service, it all makes complete sense. And we can experience directly the presence of Krishna on the altar, in the prasadam, and everywhere else. Okay, so now we will adjourn and we'll have a nice artik and afterwards some nice prasadam. Srila Prabhupada